This episode is brought to you by the Arvada Center. The time is 1959. The place is a seedy bar in Philadelphia. The audience is about to witness one of Billie Holiday's last performances, given 4 months before her death. Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill is a stirring one-woman show about Billie Holiday's life, music, and legacy, playing September 26th through November 2nd at the Arvada Center. Get your tickets now at arvadacenter.org. That's arvadacenter.org. This episode is brought to you by Florence Crittenden Services. Florence Crittenden Services is on a mission to educate, prepare, and empower teen moms and their children. Miles for Moms is FloCrit's family-friendly fall fundraiser, a community-run walk and roll that starts and ends on FloCrit's campus and goes around Houston Lake Park. And it's celebrating its 20th anniversary this year on Saturday, October 4th. Registration is $35 and includes a t-shirt. Sign up or donate to support teen families at FloCrit at flocrit.org/events/miles-4-moms. Today on CityCast Denver, Mayor Johnston finally unveiled his version of next year's budget, and it's smaller than anyone would like. But is it all the mayor's fault? Then the Denver Zoo wants to open a second entrance in City Park, and not everyone's happy about it. Me and producer Paul Crowley are joined by a favorite returning guest to dig into these stories, plus more news of the week. Today is Friday, September 19th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Welcome to CityCast Denver, the show about the city where our public schools bus system has been dropping kids off at the wrong bus stops, leaving kids on the bus, and dropping them off hours late. I know this isn't a funny story. This sent
Not
me...
yet.
It sent me into mom ballistic mode reading what these parents went through. But Justine, did you ride the bus?
I did ride the bus. I was just sharing my bus stories the other day.
I was reading it and I was like, a first grader just gets on a bus and they just drop them off. But I never rode the bus, so I don't know how this works.
That one freaks me out because we rode the bus in middle school. So we're already 11, 12. You're feel more comfortable, I think, putting your kid on the bus. But when I see the little ones, or we used to see the little ones on the RTD too, riding the bus, that's a lot to put your child. I can't even imagine Montgomery on
a bus.
But
No.
without you.
No.
Yeah.
Paul, did you ride the bus?
Yeah. It was fine.
You never
Yeah,
got
I was
left
okay.
anywhere?
No, it's not a big deal. I don't know. Is that a new thing that are parents more worried about kids on the bus these days? Or I don't know.
Well,
Maybe in a bigger
if this is
district.
happening,
I'd be worried about this. That's not great.
it's really kind of scary.
It's really scary. And I think, you have, if you're in charge of people's kids and driving them, you have to be on it.
Yeah.
And it's harder with a bigger bus system like DPS. When you have a smaller bus system in town, every kid.
Yeah.
I
You're
wondered
more-
about that.
Why is this happening? Do we know why? Do they not have any money?
That was my guess, but they were just we're working on it. Sorry.
Oh.
I mean, I'm assuming
What
it
does
is
that
I'm assuming it's a budget
mean?
problem. Also, we recently have had struggles even hiring folks for these jobs, I think. So I would question maybe the quality of the pool. I don't know. It seems like a very serious job that maybe isn't treated as a very serious job.
It's a hard job. We were horrible. They called the cops on our bus and they pulled our bus over. One kid was covering the bus driver's eyes, I swear. It was bad.
What?
We got into so much trouble.
Sitting behind the bus driver and reaching around and covering while this person was
remember his
Latest
driving?
name.
edition of Justine's Denver.
Yeah, I think his name was Mr. Bosco. I felt bad for that man because the kids are horrible to him. Baker Middle School kids. Yeah, they called the cops on that bus one day. I wasn't on the bus when they called the cops, so I wasn't one of the people.
Cops on
But
the
I
school
remember they
bus.
got pulled over outside Brown Elementary, and all the parents are pissed that they called the cops. But I'm not a cop caller, but the kids are bad on that bus. So we used to open, I don't know how much I want to say, but they would open the back emergency door at the stops and stuff. Poor Mr. Bosco. Yeah, so that's a
Wow.
hard job. It's not an easy job.
Mr. Bosco,
See,
if
those
you're
kids,
still out there.
if you drop those kids off at the wrong stop, they're going to make it home.
Yeah, exactly.
They can handle it.
But poor little first grader Thea, who got dropped off at Place Middle School. This happened in your neighborhood, by the way, Paul. That's
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
yeah,
Like Place Bridge?
Yep,
Okay.
and McMean. We're having struggles. So
That's
awful.
interesting.
Well, we're coming to you from the beautiful Dude IDK studios in 5 Points. You've heard their voices already. Producer Paul Caroli is here. Hi, Paul.
Hey, Bree.
And, of course, we have a great guest today. She's our Politics and Green Chili correspondent, Justine Sandoval. Hi.
Hello.
So, Justine, you're our friend, and something exciting is happening for you, but we have to talk about it because it involves the political landscape here.
Yes.
What's your news?
Okay, I'm going to throw up.
You're good.
I am very excited that after years and years in political work, I have finally decided to take the step and run for office. So I will be a candidate for House District 5, which is Denver. In Denver, a lot of downtown Denver, so really, really exciting district. I think kind of an overlooked district, but a very important one.
District you know well.
Yes, a district I know very well. So I'm really excited for this moment. I don't think I ever, I've always had the intention to eventually probably run for office, but the longer I've been in politics, the more I've been less inclined to go into public office.
It doesn't seem good.
No, it's not. It's not very fun. And I think, I'll be honest with people, I'm kind of terrified right now to go into public office because people don't like elected officials. People don't like politicians right now. But I think that even though I'm afraid, I'm really stepping up because I've heard calls from people in my community. I do know the state very well. I know the Capitol. I know what goes on there. And I feel like I've put in a lot of that work and done my time. And I think it's my responsibility to step up and help our state.
So there's probably some people wondering, is this my district? HD5. What neighborhoods are included in this?
So I've been looking at the map over and over to really get the whole district, but it's really odd because the way it's split, it kind of split part of the neighborhood here. We're in 5 Points. So my little pocket is actually just a little wedge that's HD5, but the district is really long. It goes basically from I-70 in Washington area, parts of the north side, all the way down to Ruby Hill.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah.
That is a big
it's
slice
a very
of the city.
Big slice of the city.
And very dynamics. I mean, this is the stadiums. This is the National Western. This is downtown.
I love it. I get goosebumps because I'm like, it's the best parts of Denver.
And the most controversial.
The most controversial.
Exactly.
Well, that's a lot of it, too. I think that there is a balance that needs to be found in the district, that, there's a lot of business interest, big downtown interest, and then there's still communities that's in between all of this, downtown area. So how do we create, I want to be a leader that's someone who can work with business and also make sure the community is being heard, and we're having this happy symbiotic relationship between business and community, and people are living where they work, and we have good transportation. I mean, I know as one individual, you can't do all of that, but that's my vision. Housing, transportation, environmental issues, those are all the big ones, especially for the district. You have parts of global Swansea area. We want to make sure, we're tackling these big issues. And I don't know, they say more developments are going up in all of that area. There are a reason why people didn't live there, because environmental impacts. So what does that look like for new community members coming in? There's just a lot, and it's a lot of really interesting things. And so I'm excited. I love Denver. I'm like a child of the city. I grew up, family on the east side, grew up in the north side, went to school in the west side. I've been all over this city. So
I'm desperate to talk to you about your positions on all of these issues. But I kind of think we should step back, because this is a little weird for us.
Sure. Since
you've been on the show for years, listeners know you, but this is also a race that we would cover on the show.
Absolutely.
So I don't know what more to say about that right now, except that it is weird and we want to do it fairly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to get to know your opponents. I know you have a couple. We're going to work on that. But Bree, what do you think?
I think just this honest conversation right now about be as transparent as possible and understand this is what real life looks like. Relationships develop professionally and personally. And like you said, Paul, we're going to do our best to bring the other candidates forward so we can have an in-depth conversation with everybody about what this looks like. But this is a first for us, right?
Yeah.
We're learning as we go.
I
It
was
is
really
weird.
nervous. One of like the things that was holding me back from finally making the decision to run was I enjoy all of the things I get to do in Denver and like having a very unfiltered opinion about how I feel about the city and the state
Check
I
the
live
archives,
in.
folks.
Yeah, totally.
Dig up.
I don't know. We do a lot of the good stuff off mic. So.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
it's true.
it's off record.
But also, I think that's to me as a voter, that would be cool to get to know you in a way that maybe I have never got to know other politicians. So I see that it's hard. That's
like people.
That's hard.
I feel like people know me a lot. I've been very like honest, transparent. I made sure I did a lot of groundwork too, and made sure like I was in a position like emotionally.
It's a big step
to do this and to think about like the other things. Like it's so much fun just to say whatever you want. Once you're in there and the people have hired you to work for them,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be as fun anymore. I'm giving up fun Justine for serious Justine for everyone.
Well, that's our job, though, is to get past the serious Justine to the Justine we know. And also to do that to your opponent. I mean, you're talking about the authenticity, and this is, just to drive straight into the weirdness like I like to do. Your opponent does this in a very different way. This is going to be an interesting race because, people have a relationship with you in part through our podcast, but your opponent, one of them at least, I think there's going to be a few more I've heard, has a pretty big Instagram following.
Mm-hmm.
People know her as an influencer. Raina Kingston. She's Raina King on Instagram, but she's got her own way of doing this. It's a new world of politics.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But, I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see how everyone can move forward with, like, my other things that I've done, too. I mean, I still got green chili opinions and things to share.
Do you know the La Loma situation? Because we covered this on the show, and people were like, what's your take? People were like, what's Justine think?
Okay. I had posted about this because a friend of mine was trying to plan like a banquet or something, like, let's go to La Loma. And they sent the article, but they sent the article to her because it was behind the paywall as like email. So she sent it to me and I was reading it and I had to call her and be like, is this an article or is this like a fiction story? You sent me a fan fiction of La Loma because it just seems so weird. Like even the backstory of the owners. I didn't know any of that. And I've been going to La Loma forever because it used to be on the north side. Mm-hmm. That's where they used to have like all the school banquets. Stuff.
I love that building.
Yeah, the old house.
Lodge, yeah.
So I didn't know any of that. So my mind was blown.
What do you think about the green chili? Because the recipe was also up for debate and also was taken to court as maybe, is this intellectual property? The judge said, no, it's not. But
yeah, because like the original owners passed it down when they bought the restaurant.
Yeah,
the
grandmother of the Mendozas.
Yeah, so it's coming from an OG grandma source. So I mean, that's a big thing to protect. I would say that because I think that a lot of new green chili restaurants, they take some creative liberties with it. But like the best green chili is like your grandma, your grandpa, your uncle made it. Like it's like more simple. So I think their chili is pretty standard for green chili. It's kind of floury. I think a lot of restaurants do that because they're trying to stretch it out. But it's not my favorite. I wouldn't be like, ooh, La Loma green chili. I like the flautas personally. But it passes as Denver green chili.
All right.
There
we go. If anyone wanted to know what our green chili expert thinks about it.
It's passing.
Okay.
That's
they got a passing grade. Good job, La Loma. The Brinkerhoff Empire. I'm sure they're fine.
Yeah. Well, they're giving discounted margaritas before and after the Rockies game.
Oh, yeah? Is that
they're
true?
like a sponsor. They're on the thing all the time. And now I can only think about their chili divorce.
Yeah.
The great chili divorce of 2025. What a great Denver story. Well, let's talk about our first big news story, which is the mayor unveiling his budget, and it includes many things, including this pivot on his homeless strategy. But let's look at the bigger picture really quickly on what this budget, what he was starting with. A projected $200 million deficit. 9 News reports that proposed budget cuts are 5.8% from the city's general fund to deal with that $200 million shortfall from lost sales revenue. The city plans to spend $1.66 billion in 2026, down from $1.76 billion in 2025. I think we've seen some big impacts already. The layoffs were announced, obviously, 169 folks, and the elimination of 666 open positions. But so far, the mayor has promised No cuts to important services like rec centers, libraries, trash pickup, although 2 libraries have already been closed earlier than planned for renovations, I think in an effort to save money. So I wouldn't, and also trash pickup services have been cut in some capacity. So
We just heard about the parking ticket magistrates. So if you want to appeal a parking ticket, you now don't have anyone to talk to.
There's no
about
person
that.
in that office.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in trouble now.
Now Justine is invested.
Magistrate, one of the magistrates knew me when he started going. Can you go in person still?
I
don't know.
Think,
Okay,
it sounded like there's no one in that office. But maybe
I think they laid off the office, and you got to talk to Dottie now, the Department of Transportation Infrastructure.
Seems like, don't they already have enough to do? Well,
They
you know
lost
what,
people
Justine?
too.
We'll send you
See?
on a
Send me
trip
on a
to
mission.
figure out your situation. Again, homelessness, we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think one of the biggest parts of this story this week was clerk and recorder Paul Lopez called the $4.5 million cuts to his office a, quote, threat to democracy, which we will actually be asking him about next week. Paul, in general, what are your thoughts on this situation?
I mean, I talk to business owners a lot because I like to hear how they are feeling about their customers, Denverites. You know, what are the trends? What are people buying? What are the vibes? You know, I think business owners really know this better than anybody because they have big audiences like we do. We hear from people. And I think the story is like, the big picture story is there's boom times and there's bust times. And Denver had a lot of growth for 30 years. And now, you know, in part thanks to the pandemic, in part thanks to other economic trends, this is a really tough time. And our mayor came in with big hopes and dreams, and he had big projects, and he got people really excited about them, and they were expensive. And now it's time to pay the bill.
Yeah.
And that is especially hard when the economy is also not doing so hot.
I think this is such a clear example, too, of the cycles of politics. You can come in at the tail end of a really good era for Denver, and you get what's coming, which is like the bust cycle. So I'm not like saying, oh, that's the only reason that this is happening. Obviously, some of this is about Johnston's decisions, but part of it is just like your place and time, where you ended up being. Yeah. Justine, what do you think?
No, I agree with everything Paul said. That's exactly what the situation is. And so, yeah, I was really thinking about this hard yesterday, and I want to give the mayor some grace here because honestly, there are some decisions that were made, you know, but it's really kind of the reality across the country. Denver's not the only city facing budget shortfalls. I think Aurora's like 20 million, which isn't quite hard.
They didn't have to do layoffs.
But they didn't have to do layoffs. They're doing furlough days. They're doing other things. Boulder also. But, you know, cities across the country are being hit with this because and personally too, I can see it in my own bank account. You know, I had a nice little reserve for once last year, and this year it's just been dwindling because prices are going up. Stuff that I had big plans for, that I saved up for, suddenly are looking like not quite a possibility, more expensive. So it's just the reality of the times right now. I appreciate the fact that, you know, they're not going to lay any more people off, even though it was like horrible but you have to do anything to keep that morale now too amongst employees along with, you know, economic and financial issues becomes like this just
I think this is the core thing. I mean, people talk about the economy as if it's about money, but it's not. This has always been my thing. It's about vibes, you know?
Exactly.
It's because a dollar is worth something different to different people, and that's what changes day to day based on how people are feeling about what the work is worth to them and what the money is worth to them, what they can buy for it. So like he's calling it the Vibrant Denver Bond, but it's really the Vibes Denver Bond. Like this is an effort to improve the vibes in the city, to go deep, to go into debt, try to make some investments that can turn people's feelings around. Because it's really important for people to be excited, to try to find value in things that are maybe they cost a little bit more, but to find that extra value just because it's here, because you're the one that gets to do it, because you're doing it with the people that are here.
I mean, I'm thinking about this conversation I overheard at my kid's school the other day with a parent and his teacher that said, hey, I just felt for her. She was so frazzled. She was like, I'm so sorry. I don't have enough pull-ups to leave with my kid at school this week. I have $35 until the end of the week, but I'll make it up. I'll bring more in next week. And I was like, I don't know if that's vibes, man. That's like real. That feeling, I felt that for that mom. I've never had to make that decision. And the school then shoulders the burden, which I will tell you, the school is not making a ton of money because they do try to serve as many folks as possible. And so, but I mean, that gets down to the reality of it. If that mom doesn't have money for that, she certainly doesn't have money to go out and spend money and make that tax revenue that we're missing. So it's a really hard conversation, but I think it gets granular when you look at everybody's individual experiences and how that affects them.
Yeah, that reminds me, I see all these headlines like, why are Denver restaurants closing? I'm like, because people don't have money to go eat. It's like very simple.
And food has gotten more expensive.
Food's
So
more
It's gotten more
expensive.
expensive. The value
it costs
proposition
more.
is not there.
Yeah. I ordered takeout the other day from a place I always get takeout, and it went from like usually like $13, $15 to the entree was like $19.50.
It's crazy.
And I'm just like $20.
totally.
Like,
And then you
okay.
still want to support your, I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I had like my regular order for my family at a restaurant we go to every month at least. And I was like, why is this $20 more
Yeah.
than it was 3 months ago? But it's, you know, it's these
And then
things.
I'm like, can I eat this for lunch too? Can
Yeah.
this be
Can I
other
stretch it
meals?
out?
Yeah.
You
My
know?
grocery budget, I'm good.
Oh,
I keep a
groceries.
budget. I had that thing on lock and it is just out of control.
You know, King Supers could save a little money by not sending me a recipe book in the mail every 3
Oh,
months.
my
I'm like, could you
gosh.
just stop sending these and just pay people more and make my groceries less money?
True. I did make one of those recipes.
Did you?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, no, go on. Was it good?
It was a peach cobbler thing.
I get
Yeah,
they
probably
just
good.
piss me off. I get
Yeah,
so
but it
pissed.
comes in the big thing and they do all this advertisement. Yeah.
They're on every podcast I listen to is advertising
For
Kroger.
Kings.
Yeah.
Call
I'm
us, Kroger.
Right?
Although I did, I got my my receipt checked by them for the first time at my Kings in
did?
Virginia. Yeah, it happened for the first time. Well, the security guy asked me, and then because I read the news, I knew to tell him, no, you will not be checking. And he was like, okay. As soon as I pushed back, he caved. Like
Really?
the second that I was like, actually, no thanks. And then I just walked out. And
I
you can do
just-
that, by the way.
I
There's
was like,
no
I
reason.
literally just walk right by them.
Yeah.
I don't care. You don't get to do that.
That's so funny. I keep mine out ready to go. I'm like walking towards them with it. I make them check it.
You're like, I went
I'm
to the
living the high
self-checkout.
life.
And
Look at all this
Yeah, I'm
great
like,
stuff
look who
I
paid
have.
for her groceries. And I paid the 10 cents for the bag, but I thought about saying I didn't use any bag. But I won't because I'm scared.
well, let's talk about one of the biggest cuts here that is really, I think, causing a lot of strife for folks, which is the $11 million saved by closing two hotels the city has been leasing to run as shelters. I think they will run through the end of the year. But also part of this cut was the tiny home, the Colorado Village Collaborative Tiny Home Village in Globeville area, Swansea.
Mm-hmm.
I got an email from those folks. I'm on their email list about how just how this is affecting them. They felt blindsided. They're concerned they're going to displace these individuals, and the city is promising to like find housing for folks. But something about a space like the Colorado Village Collaborative, just for instance, is it's unique in that they specifically serve women, trans, and non-binary folks. I find this interesting because this was part of Mayor Johnson's big plan at the very beginning, the campaign promise. We were going to put a tiny home village in every neighborhood, and it's changing now. Paul, what did you think about the homelessness, this shift?
I think this is incredibly important. This is like a piece of the budget conversation, but it's also part of the big picture of Johnston's effort his campaign pledge was to end unsheltered homelessness in Denver in his first term. And his strategy to do that was to pay for transitional housing. He said tiny home villages, and he said buying hotels and motels. And it turned out the motels were cheaper, so he did more of that. They didn't end up going in every neighborhood. But the underlying philosophy behind this was to do something called housing first, which if you know anything about this world, it's the idea is that the best way to help someone who is unhoused is to put them in housing first. Then do things like provide support for addiction treatment or mental health services or job services, stuff like that. Now, that's been like the dominant, most popular, like best proven theory. You know, Mayor Johnson would say, I look to places like Houston that have had a lot of success going for housing first. What's interesting about what Johnston is saying with this budget cut is he said to Denverite, I'm interested in housing first. I'm still laser focused on housing, but we're also going to start increasing the priority for things like jobs and addiction. So this is a step away from housing first. And that is a huge shift that he has not really talked about in detail.
Yeah, there was sort of an allusion to, I think in that same Denverite piece, like he's going the way of Aurora's mayor and Trump's push.
Trump hates housing first. He signed an executive order like 2 months ago saying, crime in cities is out of control. One of the things we want to stop is housing first. The other thing he's talked about was harm reduction. These are, the more, liberal Democrat mayors. This is popular ideas. So if Mayor Johnson is getting pressure from Trump on this. We haven't seen any like rescinding federal grants, but it's possible since we've seen that before on immigration. But he's also getting pressure from like the suburban conservatives, and he's getting pressure from Jared Polis, who prefers this like more of a job-centric approach. So there is a really big change, and Mayor Johnson is feeling this pressure.
I want to say something about the jobs part, because I was talking to a friend of mine who works with the unhoused population every day. And she said, great, where are these magical jobs for folks with felonies? Folks with disabilities often find that barriers to employment that other people face. Like, great in theory, how is this actually going to be implemented in a situation where, again, folks with felonies, it's very difficult to get a job. Where does this magical place where these jobs exist? And also, where is this magical treatment center? And this, I haven't
It costs money.
Well,
all of it does.
All of this drives me crazy. I'm just sitting here thinking about this because this is the tale of so many cities who have been trying to tackle this issue. The housing first stuff we know works. It's just basic humanity, like making sure people have a safe place to sleep, to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, to do whatever you need to do. Housing first works, but these cities get to a point always where it costs money, and then they don't want to invest long term, and they try to scale back. But you need to be bold enough to keep moving the progress
I kind of
forward.
thought that too, Justine.
Yeah, and like they all stop.
We haven't done it for long enough,
and it's financial stuff that stops it for doing it long enough to make it actually work. You can't. It's not overnight.
Yeah.
So you have to keep investing long term. The second part is we pay so much attention to the comfort of people who already have houses and homeowners and what their opinions are in the situation. And as a homeowner, I get it. People get territorial around their area, but you have to realize like other people need to exist too beyond your property line. And, everything I heard about the tiny home village of a friend that lives over there, best neighbors, no complaints from the neighbors of that village. It's quiet. People are just really trying to move to the next level. The other thing is we keep thinking it's a jobs and addiction thing, which are just two elements of it. But there's so many people who are physically unable to work. When we would do the cleanups with my friend Ian Thomas DeFoya and the water protectors cleanups, we would go down to the camps, which I don't see the camps. Like the camps are not around anymore. And that was his promise, right? So what he was doing is working.
Mayor.
Got to keep, Johnston, what they're doing is working. They've got to keep doing it though. There's no money. So what do we do? What do we have? Like, it's a big problem that's not going to be solved overnight. But the thing is, you got to keep going with the investment. You got to look at it from all the elements. We'd help people who were stuck in their tent for days because their wheelchair battery died. And we'd find like people who were laying there in their own like urine and stuff. And we'd have to clone up and we'd have to people come in, and we're just volunteers.
Yeah.
You're not like certified
health. Yeah, we're not certified.
Aides,
We're just there to help people who have nothing, no help. And I don't think that we're not looking at it from the big picture. And we're spending way too much time concerned about what people in houses think than actually helping people.
I think you got to think about everybody. I think it's extraordinarily nuanced. I mean, I feel inspired by what 9 News' Chris Vanderveen said to you, Bree, on our show yesterday, where he was like, you read stories, you look online at the discourse around this, it all seems like easy answers, easy problems. And this is just not an easy problem.
No.
Because, my own experience volunteering at the St. Francis Center, I saw all these problems. there is a need for jobs. There is a need for addiction treatment. There is a need for housing, all of them. And different people have different situations and contexts. And you can talk about the big picture strategies, but talking about individuals, like I always said, just looking at someone, you can see how hard it is to go through a day. It takes a day to prepare for a night on the street. That was what I thought. That was why housing was so important to me. I could see that. But then at the same time, it's cold at night. Some people medicate with drugs, stay warm. And then you have all these other problems. And sometimes these things come together in different ways. And everyone has a unique situation. So it's easy to talk about these big strategies, but like it's so complicated. And the business interests are real because we've seen it now in our budget.
Yeah, and I don't think it's the business owners' jobs either, like that. And I feel that for these, especially small business owners who are like, I can't keep cleaning up piss outside of my, I can't keep. And I totally understand that. And that's where it is hard because it's like government's job, nonprofit's job, like the community. It is so much more complicated. But I guess I would just say, again, I've said this so many times on the show, as a person in recovery, I got to recover because I had a home that was free and safe. I didn't have to pay bills. I was 26 years old. I wasn't 15 or something. And I had that ability to be in recovery in a safe place. I also didn't have severe trauma that I was also dealing with, which is what many folks who are in addiction are struggling with. And again, you get housing for 6 months and then you get thrown back out on the street. It's like starting all over again. And that's what I'm thinking about with these folks that maybe have been in these programs and then all of a sudden things are changing again, like the Colorado Village Collaborative people. Folks that are living there, what is that going to do to them? Are they going to end up back on the street too because that space that had been created for them disappears?
Well, the city said they're going to try to find permanent housing for those folks. And there was a shelter that closed and they were like, we were actually really successful at finding a lot of housing for people that had to leave. So, I mean, they're aware of these problems.
I also think it's really interesting looking at who oversees homelessness initiatives for the mayor. It's Cole Chandler. This guy ran the Colorado Village Collaborative for 5 years and fought hard against the system to get those things taken seriously. Because
and now he is the system.
And now he is. It is kind of mind-blowing to me.
He probably got an angry email that day.
You think?
Yeah.
At least one?
From his old coworkers.
I just remember how much he evangelized these tiny home villages as a solution. And now they're dismantling them. I mean, on his watch.
One of them. Well, like I said, it turns out those were more expensive than the hotels and motels anyway. And those have come with their own issues as well. I mean, security has been an issue. And who do you find a contract? I mean, it's a huge, complicated system. It's all got to work together. The money thing, Houston. I checked in with my colleague at CityCast Houston to hear what the latest is there. Their outcomes are getting worse and worse because they're running out of money. They're not spending the way they used to be on homelessness, and the numbers are declining.
And Houston was like,
isn't that fascinating?
The model.
Yeah.
When I was in planning, it was what everybody,
Houston?
everyone looked to that. I feel like
they have a new mayor.
Some of our city officials went and visited.
Yes, I think I remember that because we were talking about Austin was another city that people were looking at because Austin was struggling. Yeah, they were like pretty similar to the same issues that we were facing. But Texas was a place that we were looking at.
I think it's hard at the end of the day. It's people caught up in this shift, this back and forth. This problem is like, what's going to happen?
Life is hard. I'm telling you, life is so hard. And if you don't have safety nets, you don't have resources, it's just so easy to slip through the cracks. Life's not easy. I just feel for everyone.
Yeah, me too. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, while we're talking about the mayor, I just saw this week, and I think it's worth talking about because I think people are really down on him lately because of all this budget stuff. And I mean, some people are still psyched. The polling data was like the same number of people like him as before, but the unfavorables are going up. I noticed that there's a win that he could be claiming that he hasn't claimed yet.
That's right. This
is just something that I saw in the data because I was looking back after last week, all the shootings, horrible. I looked at all our old coverage of gun violence and shootings and all this stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, last year, 2024, at the beginning of the year, he said one of his goals for last year was to reduce gun violence by 20%. And I was like, okay, did that happen? So last year it didn't happen. He missed by a little bit. But if you look at the city's dashboard for gun violence, it's happened. It's
Wow.
continues to go down
21%.
quite a bit. It's down 21% right now from last year. And last year it was down almost 20%. And the decline from 2022 has been like pretty steady.
Well, that makes me
It's
happy.
getting better.
Where are these crime narrative people?
Yeah,
Where
well-
are the people that the city is overrun with crime?
That makes me happy because I think I brought this up like a few years ago on CityCast where I was talking about gun violence was up in Colorado during like COVID or
Mhm.
whatever. And so it's declining.
Yeah.
So we went from a Colorado failure, to a win.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about
You're
why
saying,
at some
Paul, like,
point. I
this
don't
is-
know why,
This
but
is something he could be touting to
Yeah.
say, hey, I am working on things.
Yeah, maybe
Things-
not a win because people are still.
you got to find ways, you got to find the points of light, to focus on. Like things are getting better in some ways. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not, you can't just sit in your bedroom all day and mope.
I mean, we could have a worse leadership, definitely, in this time with what we're
100%.
facing in this country.
Well, we'll put a link in the show notes to that dashboard because it is pretty interesting if you can figure out how to navigate it. It's not a very well-run website,
Oh, God.
but it is interesting, and I'm glad you brought that point up, Paul. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, City Park neighbors versus the Denver Zoo. This episode is brought to you by the Denver Botanic Gardens Chatfield Farms. Fall is almost here, and the corn maze at Chatfield Farms opens September 19th, running Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. The 7-acre corn maze features a Birds of Prey theme and a 15-foot tall bridge where you can view the action from above. I did not know the joy of a corn maze until I took Montgomery and Juniper last year to the corn maze, so I think they're going to be so stoked for the corn maze. Also, seeing them from above is like the cutest thing I've ever thought of. Seeing Juniper's little ponytail just wandering through. There's also a mini maze available for kids under 10, and barrel train rides for kiddos are included in your ticket. Plus, on Saturday, September 20th, kick off the fall season at Hop Festival, Chatfield Farms' very own beer fest. Hop Festival is an add-on to your corn maze ticket on September 20th. Tickets must be purchased in advance at botanicgardens.org. For tickets and more information, visit botanicgardens.org. This episode is brought to you by Denver Health. When someone you love brings home a new baby, what might feel like a small gesture from you can mean the world to the parents. Denver Health, in partnership with Family Connects, offers free in-home nurse visits for parents of new babies born at Denver Health. It's just one more way Denver Health shows up for families when they need it most. When I had Montgomery, tried to stay in the hospital for as long as humanly possible because I was afraid to go home with the baby by myself and my husband. And then finally Greg was like, we've been here for like 5 days. Like, we should probably go home. For more information, visit denverhealth.org/familyconnects. That's denverhealth.org/familyconnects. I was terrified to go home because you're like being sent home with the hardest job you've ever had and you don't have any experience doing it. Denver Health is with you for life's journey. And we're back. Big story. City Park neighbors versus the Denver Zoo. The Denver Zoo wants to open the old west entrance. They currently have one entrance. And August 29th, Denverite reported that the zoo is going to start talking with neighbors about reopening this entrance, which is near the tennis courts just north of Duck Lake. The entrance was used from 1958 through 2004, which I didn't realize it was used for that long, and then intermittently until 2012. So again, this was like a conversation that was starting. But what I found really interesting was, so again, I guess I should say they wanted to do a pilot program. They weren't just trying to open the entrance. They were saying, I guess the presentation at least was that they wanted to provide better access for pedestrians and cyclists. But what I found interesting was John Wenzel, our friend at the Denver Post, reported this week, quote, a zoo spokesman said the decision was made in advance of a September 2nd public meeting with about 70 residents of nearby neighborhoods. That decision was made before they talked to the neighborhood?
I thought the decision he was talking about was pausing the pilot.
Okay, because I was like,
because I think they'd already seen some grumbling or heard about some grumbling.
Because they didn't actually get to do the pilot in any capacity because folks initially said no. I guess my question was,
I have
is this
some news.
Okay, I was like, is this the RNO or is this?
Yeah, I was confused by some of this.
I talked to a lot of people about this week, and I'd be happy to share what the real situation is. But the latest from Jake Cubier, the spokesperson from the zoo, is that they are still very much interested in doing the pilot program of opening the west entrance, but they do not have a starting date.
Oh, in terms of when they could do the pilot.
Of when they will be unlocking the door.
Okay.
I went to this neighborhood the RNO's page, and it didn't seem like they were like posting the articles almost like in a positive sharing about it, and not so much like it didn't seem like there was any tension that I could find online from those groups that had been posted or any conversation. So I was interested in it.
It's happening in person, and it's happening between the lines of this reporting. The other thing Jay Cubier said is there was this meeting you're talking about, Bree.
Yes.
But after this meeting, the City Park Friends and Neighbors Association, which is the one main RNO that the zoo engaged with first, they sent out a strongly worded letter complaining about this proposal. And they were like, at the meeting, the clear consensus was no one likes this idea. Cubier says he was at the meeting, very mixed reaction. He said there was a lot of people in the meeting that were actually pretty interested in having
this all makes sense.
Okay, because this is what I was like, is this the RNO or is this the neighborhood? Because those things are not one and the same.
Yes.
Yeah, no, this is the spin from the RNO. Now, I reached out to the RNO. I haven't had a chance to talk to them yet, but I'd very much like to, because I'm sure they have legitimate concerns, and it is legitimate concerns. And as usual, when it comes to Denver, it boils down to parking.
I was going to say,
this is a parking situation.
This is where I think it's not so clear-cut, NIMBY-YIMBY, transit advocates versus parking people. I think this is my assumption. If you've been to the zoo, it's bananas.
Yes.
The parking is insane. It is full the minute that place opens. All 4 levels of that parking garage are full on a weekday, especially.
On nice days. I talked to Cubier about this too.
So on a nice day, you decide to go to the zoo. My thought was, I love, in theory, opening another entrance for pedestrians and cyclists, but I have a hard time believing that's not just going to be a bunch of people parking in the park.
Yes.
Which is, if I lived in the neighborhood, I wouldn't want that either, because I'd want that space to be open for the park's usage. But I mean, that's where I'm seeing it, is like, this is a parking problem because people already feel like there's not enough parking.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the concern from the neighbors.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's how I saw it. It was a weird one to me right away, because the last 3 times I went to the zoo, I rode my bike or I walked. And it's because it's a madhouse in the parking lot. I will only usually go when the weather's bad, because I'm like, hey, I'm going to go walk around. The animals come out when it's snowing and stuff. It's fun.
Yeah.
So in theory, that you are that person.
I am that person.
You're the person that's like, you know what? I would go to the zoo more if there was an entrance open and I didn't have to go to that insane part, and I would walk over. Or
and I
ride my
loved
bike.
that entrance. I remember as a kid going by Duck Lake.
I didn't remember
because we would go, and then we would go outside of the park through that entrance, eat our lunches, and then go back in by Duck Lake. That was like a thing when you're a kid. But so I understand, like, as someone who has taken their bike or walked to the zoo in the last, few visits, but also as a homeowner who lives in a crowded, popular neighborhood that people are trying to park and go to, I understand the frustration. And my thought too is people are going to try to bypass the crazy parking lot and park in the neighborhood.
For sure.
But I think they're going to be a happy in between.
Well, the neighborhood's so far away, though. The neighborhood is so far away.
Yeah, the park is.
Yeah, I guess
you
I was
walk
thinking
along.
more.
I don't know if people are going to do that.
I was thinking more of just from the neighbor perspective of just like not wanting the space filled with cars when I was trying to actually just go to the park. And I think the simple solution would just put up no parking for the zoo signs.
Yeah.
Or like 2-hour parking.
I think you could chase them out of the zoo people from out of the park.
I don't know.
Yeah. And I think people would be. The 32 bus drops you off right in front of the zoo entrance. There's lots of ways to take the bus there. And if it's a nice day, take your kids on a bus ride. That's like part of the adventure, But I think if there's more ways to get in, that might entice people to say, hey, well, let's take the bus.
I have another idea.
Okay.
I had the great pleasure of parking in one of these 73 spaces by the west entrance this morning at City Park, and I scoped this whole thing out for myself.
Okay.
It's a lovely parking lot. It's very small.
So there's an actual parking lot.
There's an actual parking lot, 73 spaces. It's owned by the city.
Oh.
Cuvier said that the zoo actually paid recently to clean it up, even though they don't own it. But they paid because there was some problem with like trash, like liquor bottles and needles and stuff. So they paid to clean up the whole area. So it was a little bit nicer, benefit for the community. The other thing he told me was that the 1,800 spaces that are currently off 23rd Avenue are all free to park in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not all zoos offer free parking.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah.
Across the country, there
You're
are
right.
many zoos that
I did
where
not
they
even think
will
about
ask you
that.
to pay to park. So I'm like, if you want to open up this other gate and the concern is parking, maybe it's no zoo parking, maybe you just charge money to park. Maybe you say you can park at the west entrance, but it's going to cost $50 a day or $100 a day.
And some people will pay that to
And
not
some
have
people
to
would pay.
pull their
Yeah.
giant wagon full of stuff with their kids in it.
And likewise, you could do the same with the other lot. You know, you could say maybe they lower the prices of the zoo tickets in general, and then they just charge for parking. Take $10 off the price, charge $10 for parking, and then people have an incentive to take the bus and an incentive to bike and walk and use that nice entrance on the west side, which is beautiful. It's like the Botanic Gardens.
I did not know there was a parking lot there. That's really interesting because I was thinking about when you go to Wash Park on the weekend and I don't live in Wash Park, so I am going to drive there and it's like full of cars.
Mhm.
That's what I was picturing.
All the winding roads lined with cars.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be yucky.
And that's what I was assuming was going to happen. So I think that's really interesting. Paul, I'd be interested to see. I know this isn't exactly the same because it's not like a cultural space, but Cherry Creek Mall started charging for parking a couple years ago. And I wonder how that's worked out for them. I mean, I still go there the same amount and I still pay to park. And I've fully given into that.
Yeah, that would be interesting to hear from them.
Like how they're doing. But I think that I don't see why not. I mean, that seems like a good solution. Do we know, so I guess, did the zoo spokesman tell you anything else about that meeting, about how those conversations were going? Because I am curious,
He told me they're interested in the feedback. They want to hear from everybody about this. They want to hear, because the other thing that the neighbors were complaining about was this one RNO, sorry, not the neighbors.
that's
this
the
RNO.
clear. Yeah, I really want that
Yeah.
distinction to be made because that was where I was feeling this tension.
Yeah, and I've heard from other neighbors who think this would be awesome, who talked about the Botanic Gardens as an example of like, wow, it's so nice to be able to go in the back way.
Yeah.
I
Walk
didn't
through
know
the
they had a
park.
key fob system if you were a member.
It's incredible. Well, you have to
What?
pay a little extra.
Oh, okay.
You have to pay a little extra to get the fob. When I lived in Cap Hill, I did that, and it was totally worth it.
Sure.
They could charge more for that. It's worth it.
That's
It's a
genius.
great service.
Huh.
But the zoo could do the same. It'd be awesome. So yeah, some of the neighbors are psyched. But what the RNO was grumpy about was like, how many people are actually going to use this?
Yeah.
So that's another thing the zoo's interested in. That's why it's a pilot.
I know that's what I was going to say.
Are people actually going to use
That's
it?
the
well,
point.
you
of the
got to do
pilot
it
is
so we
to
could
try
see.
it.
Yeah. I'm like,
So let them try
I will.
it.
I love the zoo. Go. You had an afternoon off. No kids even. Go to the zoo. They sell beers there.
I know. It's like
Yeah.
my husband came home with a commemorative
Yeah.
beer cup the other day.
It's
from the
great.
zoo.
I love walking around and hanging out at the zoo.
It's I do. It is funny though that it does come down to our biggest issue in this town, which is parking.
It's delicious. As soon as I realized this, I was like, oh, of course, this is another one of these great Denver stories.
No, I knew
It's
it.
all about where you put your car. It's so good. Oh
Yeah.
my God. I love it.
And I am one of those
That's
people.
my challenge. Where my car is.
Who
Not
isn't
getting
one
a
of these
ticket.
people? Where do you put your car? It's important.
I mean, I have to say, I avoid the zoo. It's too crazy for me. I prefer to go to the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. It's more chill if you go certain times. There's my husband, zoo fanatic. He and my son go there, I don't know, a couple times a month. So, but he also goes, he's like middle of the day on a Thursday dad guy. So it's a little different. But
No, that was totally my dad. He refused to take us
On the
any
weekends.
prime time anywhere. He wouldn't even. You couldn't ask him for a ride somewhere if it was rush hour. He'd be like, "You gotta
That's
wait an
how I
hour."
It's a madhouse.
Yeah. So the zoo, he would sometimes play hooky with us from school. I remember. Core memory, gotta share. Klondike and Snow. Everyone was
Oh.
crazy to see them. Lions.
The bears.
Rest in
the
peace,
two
Klondike
bears,
and
Klondike
Snow.
and Snow, are polar bear babies from the 90s in Denver. My dad was like, "We're not going to school today. It was snowing." He's like, "We're going to go see Klondike and Snow." And he took me and my brother. No one was at the zoo on like Wednesday afternoon in the snow. And Klondike and Snow
Amazing.
walked out and we got to see them. And
This is the movie.
That's
yes,
the life hack
that's
right
how
there.
you go to the zoo.
You
take
your kids out of school and go during the middle of the week.
Plenty of spaces to park.
Yeah,
Just
he parked
enjoy
right
that
up front and we
empty
walked
lot.
in.
The other thing about this lot by the Westgate, I don't know. I just want to know what people think about this. I don't know if I don't care at all personally, but the spaces are like angled parking in this lot, which I learned is also called echelon parking, which is kind of a fun name. Do you have a preference for straight versus the angled?
You know, I was just thinking about this the other day because I was getting my hair salon that I go to is the Parlor on like Grant and 7-ish.
Oh,
and
I go to the Parlor in Rhino.
Oh, do you? Love the Parlor. But a couple blocks over, because it's also around the corner from the Trader Joe's, if you want to know what the traffic situation is like over there. But one of those residential streets, they have turned it into that angled parking.
Really?
Which I love because it brings way more spots to it. I don't know how people who live there feel about it, but I assume that was why they do it, is it creates more space or more spaces?
I thought it created more space.
Makes sense.
I mean, I know how to park, so I don't mind either. But I
know, but some people don't know how to park, and you have to park next to them.
Yeah, I feel like they do better in the angle than they do in the straight.
I'm like, where did you learn? If you didn't learn how to park in Capitol Hill, clearly you don't know how to park.
I'm like, just get in between both lines. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just don't be in the other space. But I think
you can come to Bree and Justine's Denver Parking School if you'd like to learn more about how to park in this town.
I'll parallel. I want to put on my resume. Can parallel park like a mother.
Thank you. Same.
Don't even turn the radio down.
I parallel parked so good once. I got out of my car and someone clapped for me.
Me too.
I got an applause. It felt so good
when people know how to do it.
Yeah.
It's an underrated skill because you do watch people do it so bad all the time.
Yeah.
So when you can just
I like whatever creates more parking spots.
That's our official position in the campaign for HD5. Whatever creates more parking spots.
That's going to be a whole conversation.
I know. I'm like, I don't know if you want to open that can of worms today.
That's not campaign related.
Well, we'd love to know what you think. We know we have listeners in this neighborhood. We know we have listeners who are parks enthusiasts, zoo enthusiasts, cyclists, pedestrians. Give us a call, 720-500-5418, and let us know what you think about the west entrance at the zoo and parking. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, our wins and fails of the week. This episode is brought to you by Window Nation. It's September, cooler weather's on the way, and if your windows are drafty or leaky, now's the time to act. Replace your old or builder-grade windows with custom-built, high-quality windows from Window Nation. Window Nation measures 3 times to ensure your windows fit perfectly and keep you and your home comfortable year-round. Oh, my kitchen window that my husband actually accidentally broke one of the panes out while installing a new electrical panel on the back of the house. That's a story for another day, but the window still needs to be replaced because cooking without being able to open your windows is not fun. Plus, put 0 down, make 0 payments, and pay 0 interest for 2 years. That's right, you could pay nothing until 2027. Hurry, the Buy 2 Windows Get 2 free sale ends September 30th. Don't miss out. This is Window Nation's most popular deal. Schedule a fast, free estimate now with Window Nation at windownation.com. That's windownation.com. It's time to go over to our CityCast Denver neighbor and sponsor of this week's episode, Elizabeth Martinez with Compass Real Estate, for our weekly segment, Navigating Denver Real Estate, to answer all of your Denver housing market questions.
So this week's question from Christine is, what are the pros and cons of solar panel leases on a home? Well, in Colorado, solar leases are a bit of a mixed bag. The upside is you get clean energy, which is better for the planet. Most solar companies handle maintenance and repairs, so you're not on the hook for those expenses. And electric costs may increase here in the near future, so you're possibly locking in a fixed electrical rate for your home. The downside, though, is that you don't own the system, which means they get the tax incentives and any overages that you may produce, which is money back from Excel. And you have a payment plan attached to the title of the home. The bigger concern for us in the real estate industry, though, is when it's time to sell, buyers either have to assume that lease, meaning they have to qualify for that extra payment on top of their mortgage, which is not always so simple, or you might have to buy out the rest of the lease to appease the buyer pool out there. That could be anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 left. Also, appraisers typically don't count leased panels towards a home's value, so there's no resale boost unless they're owned. If you want the biggest long-term benefit and the least hassle while selling, owning the panels outright, either private financing without being a cloud on title, or leasing, anticipating buying the lease out at closing, makes the home more appealing, since buyers can enjoy the energy savings without any extra contracts.
This segment is sponsored by Elizabeth Martinez with Compass Real Estate. Have a question about Denver real estate? Use the link in the show notes to submit it. Elizabeth might answer your question in next week's segment. All right, we're back. It's time for our wins and feels of the week. Rocky Mountain highs and lows, things that ruled, things that sucked. Again, always. We'll start with fails so we can end on a win. Justine, what's your fail this week?
My fail is kind of an ongoing thing.
Is this a personal feud? Because mine is.
No, I guess it could be. And yeah, it is. So, well, on Saturday, there was a meeting, I believe it was at Hiawatha Davis Rec Center for the planning of the Park Hill Golf Course that has been an ongoing saga.
We didn't even talk about that in the
election and everything, but there's going to be a park there, and they had a neighborhood meeting. But a lot of people noted that there has been some voices absent from the conversation, and it's a lot of people of color feeling that they're being left out, but also a lot of elders and people without resources who aren't homeowners who are being left out of that conversation. And then there's been some
Park Hill Golf Course conversation?
Yeah.
Like what to do with it?
Like what to do with it, next steps, like what they're presenting as the plan. People in the community feel like they're being left out of that conversation. But that's been kind of an ongoing theme because in Curtis Park, they're redoing our swimming pool over here. I say our, even though it's kind of out of this district by like a line, but still right here in the neighborhood. So Curtis Park pool, where I learned how to swim, grew up swimming, they're remodeling it, which will be great. One of the big controversies, though, is they're taking away the mural that was there by Emmanuel Martinez.
Yeah.
They're trying to save the mural. But it created this larger conversation within the community about like who's been in these conversations. And, there's just been some really interesting conversations around it. And that was another complaint for community members there. They feel like there's certain voices being left out. So I just want and this has been an ongoing thing for years, my entire life here. And we see that. I think there's a lot of that resentment in communities, especially in our gentrified, I don't even know if I like that word anymore, but our gentrified communities, where it's like, we wanted beautification too. We wanted all these things in our neighborhood. And so nobody's upset about it coming in and happening, but we'd also like to be a part of the conversation and also like to be part of the planning. So there's, economic competency, cultural competency, making sure our elders are not forgotten who have been in this neighborhood, making sure our neighbors with disabilities have access to these things and are part of the conversation. Because if not, we're going to go back and try to have to fix them later. So between those two conversations I've been hearing, I just think that we can do a lot better as a city and in our communities of making sure everybody's voice is heard. So as Denver grows, it's a Denver for everybody and not just developers or wealthy homeowners.
This is a very interesting topic. I was just talking to someone about this exact same thing yesterday. He's like a lawyer guy who specializes in community benefit agreements. And obviously there's been a few around the Ball Arena project and now the National Mid Soccer League Stadium.
West Side Burnham Yard.
And he was like, we need to have a real conversation about how this process works.
Yeah.
Because if we go too far in the direction of like these CBAs and giving neighbors a voice, then there could be a situation where it comes to pass that a single city council person could shut down a development because they just don't like it or they think their particular group hasn't been left out. Like it's hard to get the balance right, I think, between making sure things can happen that are improvements and making sure they happen the right way.
Exactly.
I mean, again, I would just point back to our conversation with Councilwoman Jamie Torres about this, because we talked about this recently too, that she helped usher that Ball Arena CBA through. But it was a long and arduous process. Like I feel like she's my council person. I think she's pretty pragmatic when it comes to these things. And I mean, I think that but I also think all I'm saying is I think there's good models too. So how those get implemented, who implements them is another question. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious if there are CBAs that have failed or made things worse, but I don't know. Paul, what's your feel this week?
Gosh, there's one that's like the Waste No More initiative passed. The city council passed. There was some discussion around what voters approved a couple years ago, which was a mandate for businesses and apartments and events to provide composting and recycling. Friend of the show, Ian Thomas Tafoya, led this campaign. He's very passionate about this issue. But since the voters decided this, there has been a negotiation happening on city council within business groups about, is it possible that we could maybe make some exceptions for businesses and buildings for whom this would be quite onerous to provide these services? This is their perspective. So city council ultimately passed this, and what they passed did not include any exception for small restaurants earning less than $2 million or employing less than 25 people. So my fail has to go to the Colorado Restaurant Association. I mean, sadly for them, this is kind of you got to give it up. This was a fail. They pushed for this for months, this exception. We have heard for years about how hard restaurants have it here, how expensive it is to run a restaurant. And this was something that they thought was a priority. And they were lobbying the mayor's office. They were lobbying city council, and they couldn't make it happen. Even in a time when the climate politically would be a little bit more sympathetic to these business concerns, I would think. But it didn't happen. And that was my fail this week.
Yeah, I think something that gets lost in this conversation is what the differences in restaurants, how much money they make, how many folks they employ. Like, in some folks' mind, it's like, oh, I'm just thinking of the Olive Gardens of the world. Of course, they can do this, but then I think about the Jay's Noodles of the world, all the strip mall restaurants that are going to have to deal with this now, and it is a really hard thing because we want to move forward in a sustainable way and make these decisions for the city that could make things better in the future environmentally, but at what cost is tough. Like, what actual cost do you think is what you're pointing to, Paul, for small businesses? And
this is the kind of thing that leads to lower sales tax revenues for the city in the aggregate. I mean, obviously, one business paying for composting isn't going to make or break someone's like getting laid off or not from the city, but in the aggregate, this is the kind of decision that does lead to that consequence.
It's rough. I remember maybe back in 2013, I helped with an environmental survey of businesses on South Denver area because they were trying to implement more of the recycling programs. And I spoke with a lot of the liquor store owners on there, and they were saying that, yeah, I don't mind recycling. I get boxes all day, but you want me to pay to recycle these boxes. When he said, I forgot what state he said he came from, where they were paying them because they could make profit off recycling the boxes. So he was incentivized to keep his boxes there because he was going to get paid for it. He's like, I'm just going to toss them because the city's making me pay for this. And, I saw it from that perspective as a business owner. Like, the idea was we were supposed to be creating revenue off recycling.
Well, and
in a way, when it first started, I remember the recycling program when it started a long time ago before we got to Waste No More now. Now my recycling bins are bigger than my trash can.
Same.
But I can't
Mine
recycle
are
anything. Yeah. But you can't, like, I found out the plastic water bottles, like the ones everyone gives away or whatever, you get like a regular $1 water bottle, they're not recyclable.
Oh, really?
Only basically
like a Dasani bottle? Or
even like the cheap, like the Kirkland box of 100 that you get at an event.
Those aren't technically recyclable.
Well,
your cardboard is, your glass is, your aluminum is. But that's only like 3 that are like guaranteed recyclable. Ooh. So there's so much more you have to do to sort through it. And I don't know. I love recycling. That's all I'm going to say. I love recycling. But I think, we have to, there's other approaches to it.
When it comes to policy, that's the question.
Policy,
Everyone wants, every Denverite wants the climate to be good, wants the earth to be healthy.
I will not throw a can in the trash. I will find a place to put that thing.
It's also not just about policy, though. It's about who the onus is put on. And I think this has been a long-going conversation. We grew up in the don't litter era of the 80s where it was all put on consumers. And I think that's the same thing. It's like, Why are we not putting this on the liquor bottle distributors also that are making that? You know what I mean? Why is it
True.
on the sole liquor store
Well, I
owner?
think
Well, I
we're
think
seeing-
about.
Go on.
Oh, sorry. My Nespresso pods. Sorry, environment. I'm just like putting myself in the hall today. But Nes, they take them back to recycle for free.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I fill up my envelope and I put it in the mail and they take it and they recycle it. So it's like they are responsible for their waste of these little pods that they know are bad for the environment. I'm not giving them tons of credit because I'm sure they're still destroying the environment other ways. But that's kind of an example that I see, like taking their waste back.
Interesting.
Well, my feel this week is personal grudge I have. Longtime listeners will know that Dandy Dan's is a nemesis of mine because their security lights for their parking lot shine directly into my home every night. And now,
This is a gentleman's club on Federal.
it is. And just a half a block down Federal is a First Bank, which also has been purchased by a larger bank. So it is no longer the Colorado Bank for you. Anybody that was banking there, just know it is no longer a Colorado institution. They've installed a security thing that just flashes a blue light all night long into my home. It's one of those things like they have at the grocery store.
Yeah.
I don't know if this one talks like the grocery store one where it's like, welcome to King Supers. We're all watching you. But so my fail is to First Bank. Could you please remove that giant, stupid, faux surveillance thing from your parking lot that is doing nothing but interrupting the skyline of my neighbor?
I hate that thing. There's
I
one in the
hate those
parking
things.
lot over off Quebec by the Home Depot, and it plays music. And it's supposed to
it's
get
like a
people.
hostile, yeah.
It's hostile.
This is definitely one of those like don't come in this area things.
Yeah.
But so there's
They're
my
so
personal
weird.
beef with First Bank. All right, let's move on to wins. Paul, what's your win this week?
My win is I'm kind of on this like NIMBY. I'm on this NIMBY tip this week. So my win goes to Tony and Robin Kohaki of Wash
I'm glad
Park.
we get to talk about this.
These are the homeowners who bought a home in Wash Park earlier this year, and then they wanted to tear it down and build something new. And the neighbors didn't like this idea, and they filed a application with the Landmark Preservation Commission that made the argument that this home was historic and that it should be saved for historical purposes. And this is the same conversation we're having about City Park. You know, who gets to have a say on what? Now, the win goes to Tony and Robin because the Landmark Commission rejected this application for landmark status this week. And I thought this application was interesting because their argument for historic status was citing things like all of these famous people, judges and state legislators who have lived here, none of whom are named, none of whom are significant enough to be named.
Name names.
But the CBS did some reporting and found that some of these people are members of the Ku Klux Klan.
What?
So we wanted to preserve this former Klan home.
That's probably why they didn't have them named.
Yeah, they were like some guys
I mean,
that did stuff used to live here.
I didn't read the application, but the CBS reporting was like, their argument was that we should save this home. I mean, and I guess you want to save things that are like famous for not nice reasons too. That there's an argument for that also, but like this is a dilapidated old house.
And I want to build my giant property line bulging McMansion right here that
I don't know
only
what they
me and
wanna
my
build.
husband and my dog are going to live in.
Both
But
sides,
I
yeah.
need that was just like a nyeh to me, like, oh, it's Wash Park. Also, that neighbor, I mean, I feel bad for that neighborhood in certain ways, but also like, I don't know, you're not replacing it with some magical multifamily housing. I don't know. This is where the historic stuff does get super messy.
Why would they have to? Why
They
do
don't
they
have to. No, they don't have to. I'm just like, also, I'm not feeling bad for either side, I guess is where I'm at with this. Is like, I mean, I don't know. So many of those houses are hideous and I wouldn't want to live next to them, but I also don't live in Wash Park. So
Yeah. I mean, once again, I'm like, your property, you
Yeah.
should be able to do what you want. But as someone who lives around constant construction, one house is nothing. They're building 600 apartment buildings around me. I feel like being side, like construction is a lot. And if your neighbors are building a new house, I wouldn't necessarily be stoked about it. But then, yeah, I kind of just see like, yeah, one group complaining because they don't want to see it, and then one group having the ability to build their McMansion.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
like,
oh.
We don't know what they want to build. Maybe they want to build
Maybe
a
they wanna
beautiful
live-
home
I
that
hope-
fits
God,
in the
I
character
hope
of the
so.
neighborhood.
I
I don't
would
think there
love
is any
that,
character in
but
that
who
neighborhood left,
knows?
but I hope so. I think I agree though with you, Paul. Like I am in favor of preservation often, I will say that, but I agree when it is used in this weird way, that sucks. That to me diminishes the other historic arguments that you may be making in the future about other spaces that actually are maybe culturally relevant that we do want to save. No, we don't want to save a house that
that
remember
an
the
anonymous
KKK?
Klansman
For sure.
from 100 years ago
Yeah,
lived in?
I'm with you, and I'm bummed that was the historic stance taken. That does suck.
Yeah, that's annoying. And as someone who works on historic preservation and preserving the history of Denver, it is not great when they use like these arguments for certain properties when we do have like great spaces to save.
Yeah, it waters down the arguments for the other spaces for sure. So
yeah. We can't save everything.
Interesting.
Even though I want to save history.
But which history do we want to save?
Yeah, but
I
what
guess?
history are we saving? What we're highlighting? What's important? And I think there's been a move to, I know with like historic preservation and preserving spaces that aren't, necessarily like the regular happy history places, but we've put a lot of more focus on highlighting diverse spaces, like
and spreading
the other
that
side of Denver.
the cultural.
So I don't want to use it to save the Wash Park house. That's not as important as it is saving where the Black Panthers used to meet in the neighborhood during the 60s and 70s. Like, I want to save that stuff.
We should. Let's move on. Sorry. I want to talk about that later.
I'll have to say, I think it's good that we get to have these conversations.
Totally,
because we're always looking at the struggles with development. Justine, what's your win this week?
My win this week was just like this really great moment I had on Sunday. I was able to go to the Viva Southwest Mariachi Festival at Levitt Pavilion. It's sponsored every year by the Latino Cultural Arts Center. I think this is their 8th year doing it. There wasn't a lot of people there. I was surprised, but it was a Broncos game day.
I was going to say there was a lot going on last weekend.
The weather was gorgeous. I just had this moment sitting there in Ruby Hill looking at the city and the beautiful sunset. And, last week was just like this horrible week for our country of just like really highlighting division and racial division and all of these things. But I was just sitting there in that moment and like these beautiful mariachi music's playing. Denver just looks, I love Levitt Pavilion. It's so cool. These free concerts, families, so many diverse families sitting there, different cultures, enjoying this music together. And I just had this moment like, this is the city I want to see. This is the country that I want to see. Like where we have things that people can enjoy, free, beautiful public spaces, where people of all cultures are coming together to celebrate another culture's like, beautiful mariachi music. So that was my win of the week. And I know things are looking, not great in our country overall. We're cutting budget in our city, but that's what we need to continue working for and trying to keep like a city that's vibrant, that has culture, that lives together, that enjoys each other's culture. That's what I want. So that was my win of the week, having just that very serene moment in my city.
That's so lovely. Also, it's great when it's showing up to places like Levitt Pavilion because that means they can continue to create programming like
Go to
that.
Levitt Pavilion. I love it.
I love that space. My win just goes to the Federal Theater opening this weekend. I am not a paid booster of theirs. I'm just so excited that another independently owned venue that supports the local community is opening up in a space that has never been used for this in our lifetimes, which is really exciting. I got to tour it. I mean, where else do you get a 1923 theater in that condition becoming a venue in 2025? Like, it's kind of rare. Like when we were kids, the Bluebird turned into a music venue in 1994, like the year after I started going to concerts. So it's always been in my life. And I just am so excited. I'm so glad it's the guys from the Oriental taking it on. And I would just say, if you love local, if you want to support a local business in an ecosystem, on the north side, go to see shows there. Go around the corner and have lunch at the Universal. Like there's Cosmos is down the street. There's all these great Mexican restaurants. Like
Universal, very good.
I love. They've been around forever. I love them.
Staple never gets talked about. Great breakfast spot.
Someone was talking about like hoping that they would maybe stay open later, but it'll depend on how many folks come to the neighborhood maybe to see shows. So just know that if you're going to see shows at the Federal Theater, you could also be supporting the businesses around it. And I just see it as such a cool thing to be happening in Denver in 2025. Again, when everything is really bleak, this cool space is opening up. incredible. So
I'm so jealous you got to see it already.
Oh,
It's been
man.
impossible to find the pictures online because
It
I wanted
truly
to
has.
see what it looks like. And that's my hood, 38th and Feds. That's how I grew up. So I'm so excited for that.
you're
one.
going to love it.
Well,
You're
check
gonna
out
love
our
it.
Instagram. Bree got a little behind the scenes
Yes,
tour. You
yeah.
can see the whole inside of this theater and see for yourself.
Did you
It's
see any
pretty.
ghosts?
No, and we
Everyone's saying
asked
it's
about
haunted.
them. Andy Burkott, one of the owners, was like, I've heard, but I haven't. And he's like, I've been in here on some late nights alone cleaning out stuff, and I haven't really, I've maybe felt something, but he's like, I don't know. So I would not be surprised, though. There was a boxing ring in the basement. Isn't that crazy?
Spooky season.
Spooky season's coming up. But again, their shows are free all weekend.
Yes.
So also go in there and spend some money. Buy some merch from those bands. Be a patron of the bar. My friend Erica, who lost her job when Middleman closed, she loved Middleman. She's an old Gabor's bartender. You might know her. She's going to be at the Federal Theater running that show for the bar. Go tip her.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my shout out.
Woo.
Well, Justine and Paul, thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you next time.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. Our producers this week were Paul Caroli and Olivia Jewel Love. We record at Dude IDK Studios in 5 Points with support from Jacob Rupp and Nick Holmby. Peyton Garcia and Adrian Gonzalez write our morning newsletter, Hey Denver. Abby Madigan runs our social media. I'm Bree Davies, your host. Our music is by Los Mocachetes with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. If you haven't already, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at CityCast Denver and tell City Park friends and neighbors about us next time you see them. You can sign up for our daily newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. See you next week.